trying to backtrack. And you should have kept my name out your mouth. As we go, how it all turned out. When you try to use my name for clout, keep on going, give me something you could talk about.
Hello, everybody. Oh, nothing is showing. Hold on. It's always something. Hello, everybody. How are you doing this fine? Tuesday, August 19th. I'm doing okay. A little bit scatterbrained, I would say. I've like so many things to do today. I hate when I have things to do and it's more than one. And oh God, now my monitor's in the screen. Hold on, girl. That's how y'all know I'm not a plant. Hashtag no team. Hello everybody. Shout out to the cousins in the chat. Hello, Florida Joy, who we got in here. Reese, hello. Jay, Cleopatra, Amanda's awake. Denise, hello. So I decided, if it's not clear, this will have to unfortunately, I don't know why I'm saying unfortunately, it really doesn't exactly matter, but I was hoping to be able to do this transcript all in one video, even if it was a super long video. But it's already 3:47 p.m. I have another video premiering on my other channel called My Drug Test Results. So that's premiering at 6. And if you want to find out why I had to take a drug test and what the results are, it was a hair follicle test. If you're curious, I had to go in, they cut some of my hairs off. So I'm not going to get into the results here, but I do have the results that are coming out tonight, premiering on my other channel, BJ Investigates, and that is coming at 6, I think. Right now it's 3:47. So depending on like the stopping point and stuff, we will migrate over there, around 6. Maybe it'll be after, maybe it'll be before. But I did want to at least make a start. I did want to make a start on the Milagro Cooper deposition transcript. Now, I do not want to spend too much time on the intro because it's like 400 pages long. Again, like I just said, I'm probably not going to be able to finish it all today. So, if you're not exactly familiar with this case, this isn't probably going to be the video to get caught up out of nowhere on it. Shout out to Gorianna, been binge watching my videos. Shout out to you. Thanks so much for that. Shout out to Garden State Accountability. That was one of my friends from the Texas Roadhouse. If y'all missed that, when I did the Long Island audit court date recently, Garden State Accountability was over there. So if you don't know exactly like what's going on in this case, as you can see in the disclaimer down below, I'm brand new to the case. I just started learning about it pretty much in the last few months. I have read about half of this transcript, a little more. I've read more than half of this transcript, but more likely than not, in this video today, again, this is a live stream, so we'll just have to see how it goes. And I don't want to feel rushed. That's another thing. Like once I start feeling rushed, I feel like, I don't know, the vibe's just off. So I'm just going to take my time. The book ain't even 400 pages. But I wanted to start it because this is another topical kind of like current event. And the trial for this, this is a civil case. The trial for this is coming up in November. Now, it was supposed to be in August or September. It's supposed to be in September, but it has been pushed to November, I think. So there will be a trial for this, and it's kind of in the periphery of like the web, some of the topics that I talk about anyway. It's like everything's kind of 6 degrees of separated, right? But sometimes, it's just easier to talk about stuff that's like in the web or whatever. Sometimes I'm like sick and tired of the web and want to talk about something, and I want to talk about something different. But specifically this Tory Lanez case, the criminal case that's up on appeal right now, has been kind of like magnetizing me toward it. So because of that, this other stuff starts to pop up, which is like all interconnected, because like even that Demore Hadley case, which I was looking at even before I ever looked at the Tory Lanez case, the Demore Hadley case, there was a filing in it yesterday by by Desiree Perez that mentions the Tory Lanez, that mentions this Milagro Cooper case. So it's like these filings are mentioning the other lawsuit. So I'm just trying to get caught up. So Again, this is not, I'm not going to be going into like too much details of like what's going on in this lawsuit. I'm just assuming the people who are here already know Megan the Stallion has sued this, they call her a blogger, content creator. She, from what I understand, just does similar, just stuff to what I do, content creator, just comments on pop culture. From what I understand from just reading this transcript, her content has kind of like changed a little bit over time as far as what she's talking about, but it all has kind of always been about popular culture, reality TV, stuff like that, like celebrities and stuff like that. Now, again, I am brand new to the case. I am not all the way fully caught up. I mean, I've read documents here and there, but I'm just kind of getting my bearings. Okay. So I'm not an expert on this subject. Y'all are going to know more than me for sure, as usual, as has been, the last few weeks as I've been becoming acquainted more and more with the Tory Lane stuff. I know a lot of y'all already know all this. So if you're kind of like, you already know all this and everything's gonna aggravate you for me to like have beginner type questions, maybe this just isn't the video for you or the channel for you. But I am interested in this case, and it does make it does spark my interest as well and pique my interest as well, because it is like a defamation, sort of like cyber harassment type of case against a YouTuber. And, I have like personal and professional curiosity about how these cases go, because I am a person who makes YouTube videos, talks about celebrities, and has been involved in, now dismissed with prejudice, litigation for defamation, which was, in my opinion, frivolous, and the California courts agreed when they awarded my anti-slap motion. But that's neither here nor there. I have the deposition here. Let me get it. Here you go. Total, it says 600 pages. But it's really like 400 pages. Okay. So this was just this year. Last month. Not even a month ago. July 21st, 2025. It was like about 9:30 in the morning Pacific time. The deposition was taken at a law office for Megan the Stallion versus Milagro Cooper, aka Milagro Grams. The case number, This is a video recorded deposition. This is a video recorded deposition of Milagro Elizabeth Cooper. The lawyers identify themselves. Some people are in on Zoom. They had a whole bunch of young people just sitting and watching. I'm sure it was like the summer associates or the interns or whatever. Hold on. Let the court reporter today. Okay, so the court reporter is Ronnie Zavosky with steno. Okay, she swears in under penalty of perjury. We've made it to page 11. Good morning. Good morning. My name is John O'Sullivan. Okay, so this is the lawyer for Megan. Megan the Stallion. That's her lawyer, John O'Sullivan. He is he's the one asking the questions in the deposition to Milagro. I am one of the lawyers for Miss Pete, and on some of this stuff, y'all, I will read word for word. It's up here on the screen if you want to read it word for word. From time to time, I know it's obvious, but just to cover all my bases, dot the I's, cross the T's. Sometimes I kind of paraphrase when they're longer, more complicated, or just to make it easier to understand. I might say, leave out someone's last name, or I might change a name for what they're calling her, Miss Pete. I might say Megan, so this is not necessarily like a word for word verbatim transcript reading, but it'll be up on the screen. So you'll be able to compare, as long as you can read, or you can ask ChatGPT to do it or something. What I'm saying with this, but it's like, I'm not like transcribing the transcript. It's not like a, audio book of it. Like, it's 400 pages. I'm probably going to take some liberties and skip, a couple unimportant words or whatever, or what I think is unimportant. But y'all can read what I'm reading from right up here on the screen. This is a public document. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have this. It was sent to me. Forgive me, I do not remember exactly who sent this to me. I believe it might have been Kaylee, could have been Tia, could have been. I think that's only 2 people that's been sending me stuff lately. Whatever. All I'm saying, public document. This is where I'm getting my information from. Have you ever given testimony before? No. Also, other content creators, YouTubers, and stuff have read this too. I'm not the first to do this. Okay. Have you ever given testimony before? No, not in court. No. Okay. Have you ever been under oath before in your whole life? She said, not that I recall. Okay. Did you have a chance to talk to your lawyer about just the process of what this is going to be? Milagro said, my lawyer spoke to me about what a deposition is. Okay. And Meg the Stallion's attorney says, okay, so I'm here to get your best testimony. And as we talked about before, I'll ask you to wait for the end of the question before you start your answer. And what we already told you is to think about what it's really asking and give me your best answer. If there's any point where I ask a question and you don't understand, just tell me that. Don't answer the question if you don't understand it. Tell me you don't understand and we'll try to fix it. I want to give you a question you understand and I want to get your truthful answer, okay? Malagra's like, okay. And then the lawyer's like, deal. Now, there may be situations where your lawyer will object to something. Like I'll ask a question and she's going to say, I object. Most of the time, that means she's just putting that in the record so that we can argue about it later, whether that testimony can ever be used. And there may come an occasion where she'll tell you, I object, and don't answer the question because it's privileged. There's some narrow categories where I can't know certain stuff. But other than the times when she says, don't answer the question, even if your lawyer objects, you have to answer the question. The judge will decide later whether that gets dealt with. Milagro said, okay. Any questions for me, he says, and she says, not at this time. Okay, all right, just a little background. Where did you grow up? She said in Houston, Texas. Shout out to the Houston cousins in the chats. That's like 4 hours from where I grew up. 4 hours drive. Okay. He said, born and raised, like you lived there your whole life? She said, I was born and raised, but I did not live there my whole life. Okay. Where else have you lived besides Houston? She said, in Fort Campbell on an army base. Is that when you were growing up? She said, no, that was as an adult. Okay. Why were you living on an army base as an adult? She said, I was a spouse to an army member. Okay, shout out to him. Thank you for your service. Or her, I guess him. Yeah, him, his husband. Okay, and is Fort Campbell in Texas? No, it's in Kentucky. It's right on the line of Kentucky and Tennessee. The lawyer says, okay, so your husband's in the military. She said he was in the military. He's a veteran now. Oh, okay. And I guess starting with high school, can you just trace how you got to be who you are right now? Like your sort of jobs along the way? And y'all, she gave her whole resume. She said, okay, well, by the time I made it to high school, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. So I was in a forensics program and I forget the name of it, but I was in a program centered around medical things. And then I was in a forensics class as well. And like I said, because that was an extension of the DeBakey program in Houston that I was in middle school. He said an extension of a debating program. She said DeBakey. He said, oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard of it. Okay. Yeah. She said, yeah. So I was interested in that. So I go through high school. I graduated at 17. Me too. It's funny because I wanted to be a doctor in high school too. And then I graduated at 17 too. And I went to Sam Houston State University because I changed my mind about my major. Who hasn't done that, girl? And I wanted to go into, now she wants to go into criminal justice. She said I wanted to be a victim advocate. And so that was my major, criminal justice. And the lawyer jumps in and says, okay, let me just stop you right there. So Sam Houston University was a criminal justice major. She said, yeah. Okay. And what year did you start at Sam Houston? She said 2010. 2010. Okay. And so take it from there. She said, okay. And so I'm in school going through classes and trying to figure things out. She said she had a misstep. You go to an advisor, figure out which courses you should take and what you should do. She said, I didn't pick the right things. And so I had to transfer schools. And he said, because you couldn't get where you needed to get where you didn't, because you couldn't get where you needed to get where you were. I don't exactly know what that means. But she did, because she's like, yeah, exactly. Okay. She said she transferred to Lamar in Orange, Texas in 2011. And then she went to school there for a while, and she had a daughter in 2012. So she's out of school at that point and back at home. She said, I go back home, back with my mom, my grandma. Listen, for him the question he asked, what question did he ask? I would have not, no. We about to be here all day, sir. I'm not giving you all this. You have to ask some very specific questions. She has given some very detailed answers. His question is, I guess starting with high school. Yeah, look. I guess starting with high school, can you just trace how you got to be who you are right now? I would say I do not understand that question. Can I trace how I got to be who I are right now? No, I can't. I'm gonna need him to be like, did you graduate from Louisiana State University? I mean, like, where did you graduate? When did you graduate? All this tracing things. No, we about to be here all day. I'm about to have a headache and a migraine by the end of the day, sir. She is just, an angel for giving him all this information, because he wouldn't have got all that out of me. No. And she also seems very, educated, very intelligent so far. I mean, this is just my impressions from reading the transcript alone only, which y'all can make your own impressions. She said then she transferred. She went there, had a daughter. Oh, look at this. This is so funny, and this is so Texas. She's like, I went back home, and she, to her grandma's, or like basically, who raised her, and she's like, where does she live? Point Blank, Texas. This is so freaking Texas. I love that. Shout out to Point Blank, Texas. Point Blank, Texas. And guess where the other town is close by that you might know? It's like, if you can't say you're from, Irwinville, you say you're from Port Allen. If nobody knows where Port Allen is, then you say it's by Baton Rouge. So it's like, what's the closest next town? Guess what that one's called after Point Blank? Cut and Shoot. It's 3 words. Cut and Shoot. The other town is Cut and Shoot. She's like, yeah, those are like actually the name of those places. So I love Texas, stop. So I went back home with my grandmother, and I'm living there. I'm trying to get back into college. I take up a relationship, and in 2012, the year later, I get married to my husband, August 2012. And she's still married to him today. And that's when they make the move to Fort Campbell. In 2012, we stayed for the rest of the contract through maybe 2015. And I've been in Houston. We're both from Houston. I've been back since 2015. And to answer your question, how I got into this, at Fort Campbell, I took classes up again. How she got into this. So now she's explaining how she got into YouTube, which I always find to be interesting to hear how other people got into it. She said she started online classes because of the location. She said when you're in the Army, you can get moved to different places. So you have to make sure that your schooling won't be affected. So I began my schooling at the University of Phoenix online in maybe about 2012 or 2013. And she was she was majoring in psychology. No other school had that same concentration as the one that she was in Sam Houston. It's one of the best criminal justice schools, and they have a lot of different things you can get into. So I had to minor in criminal justice at University of Phoenix because they just didn't have what I wanted. She said, so she majored in psychology at the University of Phoenix and minor in criminal justice. Associate of Arts in criminal justice is what I ended up getting from this, she said. And she said she graduated with a bachelor's in psychology. So she got her bachelor's. So he said, so you have a bachelor's in psychology? And she said, yeah. And I began my master's program, but I didn't finish it. The lawyer goes on, okay. And within psychology, was there any particular focus? She said it was overbroad. Yeah, it wasn't anything in particular, just a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And so I'm going to school, raising my children. I was a stay at home mom. And this is when I picked up the YouTube. It was suggested by a friend who thought I was funny and said, you could do that. And I started doing reviews on TV shows in maybe like 2017 ish. So I'm literally getting up and reviewing reality TV. And so that's how it really started with streaming and stuff like that. The lawyer says, and did you just come up with the idea on your own? You saw other people doing it and said, maybe I can get into that? She said, no, it was suggested to me. A friend of mine came to me and she said, girl, you're so funny. And I think that you should do this. She had been watching other YouTube videos. And so I went and checked out a couple of videos. I had no idea people even did stuff like that. I used YouTube, she said, to watch music videos. For music videos. So I wasn't aware of the fact that people were necessarily uploading videos of themselves and giving opinions and stuff like that. So a friend of mine called me. She had been watching those people's videos and she said, "You're funny, girl. I think you could do this." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about? What are you watching?" She gave me a couple names and then I went and watched them and I felt like I could do that easily. That is funny. I wonder if she's a Virgo. Doesn't that seem like a Virgo thing to do? I mean, I'm a Virgo. It's like, oh, I could do that. Yeah. Look, this is like literally how it goes. She gave me a couple names and then I went and watched them and I felt like I could do that easily. And I started. I literally just watched a show and then I got on camera standing in the corner of my room and I said, you guys, this is what happened on the show. And it took off. Okay, next question. And who were the people you watched? Just to get an idea of whether you could do it. Do you remember? She said, oh gosh, no, that was so long ago. Oh, there's one name I can give you. There's one content creator named Bendy Blue. I know she was one that I saw for sure. Now, I don't know this Bendy Blue. I don't know who that is. Okay, what did she talk about? And Milagro said at the time it was reality television. Okay, and what would be an example of reality television? She said, well, I started with Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. And that's one of those contestant show. Oh, he said, oh, okay, that's one of those contestant shows. She cuts him off. She's like, it was a show centered around celebrities who were in relationships and just an inside look into the behind the scenes and how they navigate being famous and trying to keep things together. And the lawyer said, okay. And then you would give commentary on the show. And she said, right. And the lawyer said, and at least for you, how is there a financial side? Are you making money doing this? He said, wait, that's a broad question. Okay, new question. Like, is it profitable at any time? Okay. He said, at any time, like now, is it profitable for you to do this? Now, I do want to make some flags. I want to put some flags in the ground or whatever. One little flag is I have heard a few things just on the peripheral, like in the media or on social media or on Shade Room, Instagram, whatever, just like I can't exactly remember where, but like I've seen little smatterings of like what Milagro was accused of doing. Also I've read quite a few court filings in this case at this point, and she's a Scorpio. I freaking love I love Scorpios. I love Scorpios. I don't know. I know everybody else besides Virgos don't like Scorpios. I love them. And Capricorns. I love Capricorns. Actually, I really like, I like a lot, but Scorpio is very up there for me because I'm a Pisces moon. I think there's that psychic, like something about it. Anyway, there's a few things I had heard about this case. And one of them, of course, the accusation, and I've faced a similar accusation. Anybody making videos about anything's facing this accusation at some point or the other. And it's, you're doing that to make money. You can't make money unless you're lying, is like what some people seem to appear to think. I don't really think they really think that. I think they just don't want you to talk about them. So they just got to make some shit up. And it's like, you got to make shit up because you need to make money. And it's like, no, it's you making shit up about me because you don't want me to talk about you. But okay, like I guess we can play this dog and pony show. So this one right here, is one of those points. You're making money doing this. And, everyone that's in the mainstream media, tabloids, commentary and opinion, all anybody over there is putting stuff out to make money. Okay. They all making money. Everybody's making money. NBC needs clicks and views, so no, it's just stupid. It's that stupid to say it about a person making a YouTube video as it is about NBC. Sure, probably sometimes it's true. But if you're also not even in any way actually making money, then that whole argument just gets thrown out the window. And I want you to keep that idea in mind as we move forward. No, I love Capricorns. Like most of the people in my life that are close to me that like actually in the inner circle, I think every single one of them is a Capricorn. I love Capricorns. Those are my like, like, I don't know, like the fam. Like I love Capricorns. Okay. And I like Virgos. Obviously, I'm a Virgo. I'm partial. I like Pisces because I got that. Anyway, okay. So this question he says, and it's the first kind of like gotcha attempt, I think. Is it profitable? She said, I would say no. Oh, well, that kind of tears the legs out from underneath that whole line of questioning, right? Because what is a profit? It's money you make after expenses. But if you're spending all your money on lawsuits and then some, you didn't make nothing. You negative. There's no profit. It's not profitable. So no, it's not. But then she even takes it a step further. You'll see what I mean. She said, I do make money, yeah. But profitable at this time? No. He said, oh, because you're building, like you're putting the money back into the channel? She said, no, because my platforms are not all monetized. Like some of her platforms are demonetized. He said, oh, all right. So maybe it's kind of an open question, but if you just explain from your understanding, like how the business that you are getting into works. Okay. And I was also thinking like, while he was asking these questions, like, I will say a lot of her answers coming up to me as somebody that makes YouTube videos and I don't have a manager or an agent or none of that other stuff going on. These seem like authentic answers. These do not seem like preposterous answers. I'll show you as we go. But this is where I started feeling like, yeah, no, I mean, like, this makes sense. But the way he's trying to act like, well, you'll see. He's like, explain from your understanding, like how the business that you're getting into works, like what you're trying to do and how the economics work. She said, okay, when I began YouTube, I was already taken care of and comfortable in my life. So I didn't get into it hoping to make money. What a flex. What a flex. I mean, kind of same when I got into YouTube. And again, like it kind of adds up. Like there's really two ways onto YouTube, plant or organic. You know what I mean? Like somebody puts you on, some corporation sponsors you, puts you these PragerUs, they start out, come out the gate, first video they ever make gets 300,000 views because they've got the camera, they've got the lights. It's great videos, but like they didn't have that kind of like, I just started making videos. Like that's kind of the only two that I've seen so far type of ways to like really get on you. You just started it for fun or you started it with a team behind you. I started it to make money. I don't personally know anybody who is a YouTuber who says that because when you start, you're not making money for a long time. Usually if it's not organic, but I guess kind of, if it's just like a one person, two people thing, it takes a long time. So it's like, maybe you could start with the idea of wanting to make money, but like in my experience and the people I've talked to in my own personal experience as well, it's like, if it's like not a plant, it's usually something like this. Like, I was just doing it. It was fun. I would make videos about a niche, or I was excited about this, or I wanted to teach people how to do that, or I was taken care of. I didn't get into this. I'm comfortable. I wasn't trying to make money. This wasn't like an economics decision. I was just trying to like make funny videos about reality TV. So it was just for fun. And here he is. He cannot believe it. These money changer types cannot believe it. And whenever I say money changer types, what I want y'all to understand is, in the Christian Bible, maybe you don't know this, but there's a story. I'm not personally, I wouldn't call myself a Christian, but Jesus is really cool and he likes me. Okay. So Again, I don't like to be labeled as stuff that Christians and like the Christian church have been out here doing. I cannot stand by it. Okay. So no, thank you. But there's this Jesus story in the Bible. And there's these people at the place of worship, and they're doing business. They've turned in the temple for worshiping into basically a swap meet. And Jesus flips the tables. I know y'all heard the Jesus flip the table story. Well, one like translation of the Bible is like calling those people money changers. You money changers have turned my father's house into a den of thieves, or whatever he said. I don't want to misquote Jesus, please. But it's something like that. Something like that. And I'm like, these money changers, they're just so low down that like money is even more important to them than God. So when I say like money changers, that's what I mean. Like people Jesus would have flipped tables on. Thank you, Lottie, for the 1999 super chat. Good job, BJ. So like when you see this right here, he can't even believe it. Uh-huh. She's like, oh, I was like comfortable and taken care of in my life. I didn't do it for money. It was just for fun. He's like, uh-huh. I can't really, obviously, I didn't see the video. I'm just kind of joking around about him saying, but I do think he's a money changer type. Anyway, okay. So she said, yeah, based on how much money, oh, sorry, excuse me. She said, based on how much you may curse or some of the subject matter, you may get demonetized because the ads may not run on videos of that nature. She said, I'm a person who does curse a lot. So there was a time in the beginning where I was able to use AdSense and get money from YouTube. But then it stopped because I realized if I want to be able to speak through what I want to speak, then I just cannot have the channel monetized. So that's why it hasn't been monetized since at least 2019, maybe even 2018. She said 2019, I would say. So that's the first like knees got knocked up out from under that argument. All right. The first, I think, gotcha attempt. I think she successfully dodged because it's like, you make money off of this, don't you? She's like, on YouTube, I made money over there since 2019. It's like, oh man, okay. I'm telling y'all, the table flip story is one of my favorite ones about Jesus. I love that one. Okay, he says, so you're saying that if you wanted to be commercial, if you wanted to monetize, there were going to be constraints on what you could say. She said, absolutely. And so did you say, quote, I'd rather be free to say whatever I want? She said, absolutely. He said, then have to answer to advertisers? She said, yes. He goes, okay. And I think you said not all my platforms are monetized. Are any of your platforms monetized? She said, oh, Twitch is a platform I use now. It is subscriber based. So people subscribe. That's how you would get paid over there. And I believe that they run ads as well. And you get a portion of ad money or however that works. And Meg the Stallion's lawyer said maybe you could. So Twitch is one place where you are on that platform where you get some money from them. She said, yes. And he said, and how does that work? You just get the deposit every month? She said, yeah, once a month you get a deposit and it fluctuates based on user engagement, how many people subscribe to you. He said, okay, is it generally the same for all the platforms or each one is different? Like, how do you get paid? Is it the same, the getting paid the same on every platform, or each platform has their own kind of like breakdown? She said each one is different. From what I understand, that is how it works. However, for me, I think the only monetized platform I have is YouTube. So I don't really know how literally anything else works. Maybe I'm missing one, but yeah, I don't think I have any monetized platform. I guess I have a Patreon. I need to put some court documents up on that thing. But anyway, okay. All right. So staying with Twitch, the lawyer says, do you know how they calculate how much they pay you? Do you know how they calculate how much they pay you? Yeah, who? Twitch. Do you know how Twitch calculates how much they pay? She said, I do not know. Okay. Do you have any sense of what you can do on your side to get it to be more? Do you know what you could do on your side? Okay, so here's another little flag kind of, I think, starting to creep up. He's trying to kind of get her to say what makes more clicks and more views. I think that his theory is that if you lie and make shit up, you get more views. I haven't found that to be the case. However, I try not to lie and make shit up if I could help it. I certainly don't if I could help it. If I am mistaken, I will correct myself. But I, to this day, really don't know what you could do to get more views. Like, I don't really know. Like, it's really a crapshoot. Anything can take off for any reason. I mean, the videos that I think nobody's going to give two craps about are the ones that just go. And the ones that I'm putting all my heart and my soul into and putting little edits and this and that. And I just love it so much. And I want people to watch it. It's like flop, flop, flop. There's really no, like, I don't understand it at all. It's just whatever. And that's another reason why it makes it kind of easy to just do what I feel like, because it's not like it's really even that clear. Like, it's not so cut and dry as what these lawyers are always trying to act like. And you just knew that if you just said XYZ that you would get the views, right? It's like, really, no. And a lot of YouTubers out here maybe did got it figured out, but some really don't. And they just acting like they do. So it's like actually kind of a black box. Like, you just really don't have any idea unless you have, again, some type of inside knowledge, a manager, somebody over there at YouTube or something. I mean, I don't have that. Maybe, MILAGRO does. I doubt it. I doubt it. Oh, thank you, Mimi. Been extra cute today. Thanks so much. Okay. So, do you have any sense of what you can do to get your side to get it to be more? Consistency is always the first thing that they say. And then look at this man. He don't get it. They need to send somebody that gets it. He said consistently in audience size. She said no. In terms of putting out content, like consistently put the content. He said, oh, okay. She said, because YouTube people watch and they run ads and you get paid. Twitch people have to subscribe and they run ads. So they can watch it till they're blue in the face. But if they don't like it, you are not going to get paid. Meaning, like, on Twitch, people can come and watch your videos, but they don't have to subscribe or whatever, I guess. You're not going to get paid. They have to subscribe. So the way to grow it depends on what you feel like your goals are and what works for you. Exactly. Not everybody who goes on YouTube is like, how do I get the most views and the most money? Believe it or not everybody on here is doing it for views and money. And it's like, that is something that I do hope ends up getting proven throughout all of these lawsuits that all of us are facing, that it ain't every YouTuber out here is just trying to get clicks and clout. Now, there's absolutely clout goblins. They got them out here. Maybe y'all should try suing some of them. Because not everybody out here is trying to do stuff for clicks and clout. Not everybody out here is. They seem to think that. Now, is MILAGRO doing stuff for clicks and clout? Maybe. She says no. And I kind of believe it. She just said F it. She wants to curse, so she don't need to be monetized on YouTube. I mean, that does kind of seem like literally putting her money where her mouth is. Literally. She's like, the way to grow it really depends on what you feel like your goals are and what works for you. He said, yeah, but for example, like on Twitch, it's the issue about using language and things. She said, no. All you have to do is just talk a lot. And he said, they just subscribe. And she said, exactly. She said, and you let them know there's a box you can check and it says this video will contain profanity. It's not for children or teens. And so you just check that off and you're good to go. And that's what I do with that platform. He said, okay, and just ballpark. Over the course of a year, what is your average monthly take from Twitch? What year? Over the course of a year, what's your average monthly take? Do you want the year or the monthly? Just for now, okay, this year. Not to the penny, but approximately. She said, I could make between 5 and 10,000 a month on Twitch. He said, okay, and has that been pretty steady at that level? She said it fluctuates. I wouldn't say it was steady. I would say more in recent months. He said, okay, and do you have a sense yourself as the talent? Do you have a sense yourself as the talent? What drives the business? Like, what gets you from 5 to 10 to maybe 50? What would you be needing to do? Okay, like, honestly, you could just literally be telling people, I don't work for you, get off my channel. 'Cause I do that and people still subscribe, okay? So, like, it's just who knows? That's what I keep trying to say. Like, I tell y'all, click the unsubscribe on your way out if you don't like it. I literally tell people to unsubscribe, and I get subscribers. Then you have people out here begging people to subscribe, which, I mean, click subscribe, please, thank you. But, actually, just make sure you didn't get unsubscribed. I have people in my comments every day saying, "I got unsubscribed, I got unsubscribed." So just double check. Just double check. But who knows? However, maybe Milagro really does know. Maybe she really, really does know. Um, pocket watching. Pocket watching. True. Um, the way he was asking these questions made me feel slow. Rihanna said, Becky's laughing. Millie's, she blocks people too. I mean, see? I think I posted today. I love blocking a bot. Okay, let's get back to this. What page are we on? 25. We're 25 pages in. He's like, as the talent, do you know what drives the business? Like what gets you from 5 to 10 to 50? What would you be needing to do? She said, to be honest with you, I'm a content creator. It's just because it's fun for me. And I truly enjoy engaging with the people. So that's where I put my focus. Some people make it on camera and really get a set and go to the max. And I'm sure there are things I could do to grow my platform, but I do really enjoy the personal type of connection in what feels like a more one-on-one and smaller group of people. So I feel like it will grow organically, how it's supposed to. Shade. She said, how it's supposed to. I think that was a little shade because guess who has been being accused of using a bunch of bots lately? KB said, I love this channel because you tell people to unsubscribe. Tatiana said, yep, Millie will block you in the funniest way. I just block and keep it going. But okay, I do really enjoy the personal token. It will grow organically, how it's supposed to. And for some reason, probably because of that shade, I had put that in a little red box. He says, uh-huh. Every time he says, uh-huh, I just imagine it's because he's like, like he's mad about that answer because it actually like doesn't help him at all. Do you have anybody who helps you with the business side of all of this, or you just run it all yourself? She said, I do everything myself. Okay, and you've just learned as you've gone along, at least the business side? She said, yeah, literally, Google and YouTube videos. Okay, yeah, okay. So Twitch, you said you maybe get 5 to 10K a month when it's good. What other platforms are you on? She said, I'm on Stationhead. And he said, what is the finances of that? Is there any money involved? She said, I have a contract with them. And what are the basic terms of that? She said, well, that I do a show. The show that I already had been doing on the other platforms, they asked if I could just bring that onto their platform. And he said, exclusively? She said, no, not exclusively. I didn't have to just do it with them. All it was at least 5 days a week, come and do a show on Stationhead. Okay. And does the show have a name? Yeah, it's called Mob Radio. She said it's an extension of everything else I already had. Yeah. And the lawyer says, okay, and Mob Radio is your brand? You have a trademark and all that? She said, yeah, I have Mob Radio trademarked and Milagro Grams trademarked Slay. Trademarked under Mob Radio LLC. It's obviously your last name is Cooper. Is Grams like a stage name? Or she said, yeah. How did you choose that? Just curious. She said YouTube needed a last name and I didn't want to use my own name. So I was like, what's a cool little name? And they called me. I have a nickname, Nino. And they said, what about Grams? And I said, okay, that sounds cute, and ran with it. I'm really not tied to it too deeply, to be honest. He said, but somebody at YouTube suggested that, or your friends? She said, the audience. I spoke with my audience openly. Like, what do you think? I spoke with my audience and asked them what they thought. We picked it. He said, okay, so Stationhead, the weekly 5 days a week. And you said what? What are the economics of that? How would you get paid? She said, I got paid once a month, $6,300. Oh my God, station head, y'all paying. And that assumes you do your 5 shows. And is there a duration of that contract? Like, how long does it last? She said it's open ended. And he said, could they terminate you if your audience went away? She said, absolutely. They can terminate for whatever reason they wanted. They could terminate it. Okay, what about you too? Can you terminate that contract at will? She said, I don't know. Okay, next question. Is the $6,300 a month a function of how is that determined? Is that just the number on the contract? She said, yeah, that is flat. It's flat. Uh-huh. Okay. So is there something that would in your mind entitle you to get more? Like, is there a sliding scale? Or is it tied to something that would then go up? She said, no. So again, y'all, I think this is another place where he was trying to build it up as it was going to be a big crescendo, like maybe a possible potential attempt at a gotcha, but it kind of falls flat because he's kind of, I think, trying to ask, maybe he believes that if she were to get more views, she would get more money, but that isn't how the contract is set up. She said that is nothing we discussed. He said, okay, so whose idea was the $6,300? Yours or theirs? She said, I don't really know at this time whose idea it was. Okay. Who approached who to go on Station Head? Did you just reach out to them? She said, no. Station Head came about because of an opportunity I was offered on another show on their platform. So I actually had to do somewhat of an internship for about 2 years before I was offered a deal by Station Head. So Station Head actually offered me the deal. Okay. And the next question, tell me, what was the internship? Who was involved and what were the terms of that? Rashida Ali is her last name. Oh, is her name? Rashida, how do you spell the last name? Ali. Okay, Rashida Ali, she had a show. Yes, and a blog called On Site. On Site. Okay. She said, and in 2019, I was asked to appear on the show as a guest. No, as a guest, he says. She says, no, auditioning for a gossip column. Okay, next question. So hold on one second. I was asked to appear on the show as a guest auditioning for a gossip column. He says, okay, so you're auditioning to be like a feature or on her show? You would come in and talk about, she said, and co-host. Okay, and your area would be what? The latest gossip? She said, well, it started with the gossip column, but once Ra saw my show and she felt like I could do more, then I became a co-host. So I was able to give opinions, present topics, and it would be more equal than just cut scene off to the side gossip column. Okay. And then you ended up doing that for 2 years. She said, once I did the preliminary video or the preliminary stream, they loved me and I stayed on the show. And I actually did my show on Station Head and a show with her on Station Head once a week. So I had 2 shows on Station Head and the first one started in 2019. He said, wait, you had your show 5 days a week on Mob Radio? You had the Mob Radio show that started in 2019? She said, no. 2019, I was with Ra Ali. Oh, okay. I thought you started doing both. No? Because she did kind of say it kind of ambiguous here. I could see why he thought that because I kind of thought that when I first read it too. But she meant starting in 2019, she started on Station Head. But then at some point, she was doing 2 shows at the same time, both on Station Head, I think is what she was saying. Okay, so 2019, you start with Ra Ali and they love you and your role gets expanded and it's basically co-hosting. And for how long? Starting to do that until you had your own show. She said 2019 to 2021. Okay, all right. So you got your own show, Mob Radio, in 2021. She said yes, and a formal contract. But Station Ed was paying me prior to my formal contract for my show on their platform. Okay. And what was the current contract is $6,300 a month, right? She said, uh-huh. And what were you making prior to the contract? And she said, I don't know the exact amount I was making. It was based on viewers at that time and incentives. I don't want to give an incorrect number. I really don't know. He said, I don't want you to give me incorrect number, but also, I mean, it's your business. It's your money. You would have some idea. Was it $1,000,000? She said, oh no, at that time, I don't know, maybe a $500, maybe $1,000 a month. Okay. And you said based on viewers and incentives, what would do you remember what the incentives were? She said at the time, the incentives were viewers. Okay. And so it would be if you hit X viewers, you get a bump in. If you hit X number of viewers, you'll get a bump in your money. She said they had a pay scale. So based on the viewers, you got money. They were willing to pay a certain amount that month. Next question. Okay. All right. So you have Twitch, you have Station Head, any other platforms that you are out on? Any other platforms you're out on? And she says, well, now I have a Kick. He said, is there any financial aspect to that? She said, no, I just started. He said, could there be? She said, yeah, eventually. Okay. He says, is there any way to monetize that? She said, yeah. And then he asks, well, what makes Kick different than the other two, like Station Head and whatever else? She said, nothing. It's all very similar, almost identical to Twitch. He said, okay, so does it have, I assume it's like different audience, right? Or no? She said, sometimes. But I personally believe many people watch the same people. He said, okay, when did you start on Kick? She said, within the past 3 or 4 months. He said, and what made you want to do that? She said, more income. Okay, and what's the income proposition there at Kick? She said, once again, it's subscriber based. So it's open-ended. He said, okay. And so you just get a piece of whatever the monthly take is on the subscribers? She said, I don't know how they break it down, but yeah, based on subscribers. I'm fairly new to Kick, so I haven't really seen any return on that. He said, have you gotten even one invoice? She said, no. He said, but you expect it's going to say, you have this many subscribers, so you're going to get this money. She said, yeah. He said, and when we charge them X dollars a month, we're going to give you 20% or whatever. She said, yeah, right, whatever percent. He said, okay, so do you know what the split is? She said, no. He said, okay, so that's new. And you say you don't really see that as a different audience. She said, no, I don't. He said, just a different way to, okay. So Kick, other platforms you're on now. She said, for streaming, that's it. Station Head, Twitch, and YouTube. Okay. She said, I also have a Rumble, but I don't use it. He said, what is Rumble? She said, another streaming platform, but it's just like Twitch and Kick, but it confuses me, so I don't use it. He said, okay, so you're not getting money from them. She said, no. You don't see your fans there? She said, right. I've done a few videos on Rumble, but I was confused. I left it. He said, okay. And then, okay, so that's all. That's all the places that people would find your streaming? She said, yes. Okay, next question. And that's all the places you get money from streaming, those 4? She said, right. Twitch and Station Head is where I get money from streaming. And Kick might turn into that. Rumble, no, because I don't use it. Right. Okay. What about other social media? Other ways you get your words out there to the people? She said, I have a Facebook page and a blog page. He said, what do you do with that? She said, it's an extension of my Instagram where I blog. So it just sends whatever I post on Instagram to this Facebook page. Okay. And do you make money off of Instagram in any way? She said, no. You just promote other things. She said, just promote. I don't make money off the Instagram. He said, okay. And do you use Instagram to promote your streaming and, streaming here, streaming that? She said, yeah. Okay. And have you learned in doing the business how that works? Meaning like the effects you get from certain kinds of promotion and kind of attention getting stuff? She said, no, I haven't learned, unfortunately. And it's true. It's just, this is how it is. Unless you have like actual, data AI robots or something like some insider like type of information, it really is just a black box. No one knows. No one knows the effects. Like, do you get more or less views because you shared something on Instagram? It's just no one knows. And I don't bother myself with knowing. I don't care. My answer would also be no. I didn't learn. I just do it just in case. Seems like it makes sense. He's like, so you're still feeling your way. She said, well, I mean, it's difficult because I'm the talent. So trying to figure out that background, a lot of people have a team that does all that stuff. So no, I haven't focused and I'm really not knowledgeable about those different things like that. The lawyer says, okay, well, have you developed a sense just being in it for the time you have of sort of what sells, what gets eyeballs, what gets attention? She said, in a way. He said, in a way. She said, yeah. Okay, so what do you think is on that list? Like, if you're thinking, how am I going to increase my scope, get more people, get more attention? What are the things you've learned that pump that? She said, I've learned that you need to be accurate, timely with your information, and it needs to be clean in terms of presentation. I think those are the biggest things. Okay, so I want to increase so he's asking like what gets more attention, what gets more views basically. She said, well, you need to be accurate, you need to be on time, and your presentation needs to be somewhat cute, basically. She said, I think those are the three biggest things. I think that's important stuff too. I don't know what three things I would say, but since I didn't think of it, I'll just go with her. That's, yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, y'all tell me. What do y'all think when you're looking at a video? You want to leave, like if the audio is real bad, or like something's not synced up, or it's like really distracting in the background, or like anything like that, I just can't watch it. So I do definitely agree with the like it needs to be clean in terms of presentation, but that doesn't mean it has to be shot in 4K. It could be on your iPhone 10, really, iPhone 7, just like. I think clean is a good way to put it. He's like, by clean, what do you mean? No bad words? Look at this doofus. She's like, no, I mean clean in the way that the visual appears and the sound. It needs to be produced in a way that people would deem it to be quality. He said, okay. Yes. And on all those things, clean, accuracy, timely, do you try your best on all those? She said, I do. I don't. I don't try my best to be accurate. Well, accurate, yes, of course I do. Timely, no. That's the one where I'm like, no, I don't. No. And I mean, I guess I try my best to have a clean presentation, but sometimes I will put that video up even if the mic didn't record right. Yes, I will. Accurate, yes. Timely, no. I do not do my best. Sorry. I got other stuff to do. Okay, all right. Okay. Other places on social media that you have a presence. She said Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. He said, all right, let's just go to Twitter. Do you get any direct economics out of that? Or it's just promoting the other things? She said, I have gotten money from Twitter before. He said, okay, tell me just how did it work? What did you get? What did you do and what did you get? She said, okay, there was a time on a particular page I had where I believe your engagements on Twitter would give you a payout. I made no more than $500 from the entire time, if even that. You would get maybe a $12 check per month. I don't know what the scale is and how they would do it, but it was very low. He said, okay. And what does in the situation, what does engagement mean? Somebody responds to you, or she said there was an update on Twitter where they began to show how many people had viewed a post. I believe that's what they were referencing, but I'm really not sure. He said, and then there's some math around that. They say you got 5,000 views and under our system that gets you $4 or whatever. She said, no. Oh. I thought for Twitter. Yeah, for Twitter. She said, I believe so, but I really don't know how it worked. But you think whatever it is, it was engagement based. She said, I believe. And engagement probably means views. She said, yeah. Okay, but in your case, the best you ever did was $500, or everything together was $500 on Twitter. She said, I think that's exaggerated. He said, okay. And what about Snapchat? She said, I never made a dime from Snapchat. Never made money off Snapchat. He said, so why do you have that? Do y'all see what I mean? Like the money changer cannot understand why somebody would just have a social media thing they're not making money off of. Why does anyone have a damn Snapchat? What are you talking about? It's given doofus. The Life of Samad said you can't be monotone or reading directly off a script. So yeah, exactly. That's like a authenticity thing, right? I think he was trying to get a little gotcha. I do think he was trying to get a little gotcha. Oh, right. Um, Kiki said, I read this whole thing. That man was rattled or ratted, and talking to her, getting all personal. It seemed, Kiki said, like he was fishing. He was fishing. Tatiana said he was fishing, and he came up with nothing. His some said his line of questioning is pathetic. Yawn. Okay. So why do you have Snapchat? Just to general promotion of your presence and feed the other platforms? She said, actually, Snapchat started as a personal page. As popularity has grown and more people have become interested in me, it kind of turned into a public page, but it's actually just my personal Snapchat. Okay, what about other social media presence? She said, I have a TikTok. Okay, and are there economics around that? Like, do you get paid for that? She said, this TikTok was given to me by someone else. So when I got it, I was able to get a couple checks from TikTok. Yeah. Okay, so how did that happen? Someone offered to give you their TikTok or you asked them for it, or how did that happen? She said there was, one of my pages on social media was targeted and deleted wrongly. And a subscriber of mine said, I have a TikTok page I don't use. Do you want it? And I said, sure. Okay, was there some identifier of the TikTok account? Like, does it have a name or something? She said, yeah, now it's misinformation at this time with 2 Z's. Yes. It's supposed to be an exaggeration of my blog. So it is supposed to be, an extension. It's supposed to be an extension of my blog. So it's supposed to be kind of branded the same, but I don't use it at this time. So I'm not certain what the name is at this time, but I believe it's misinformation. He said, all right. And did you go back and look at any of your old social media or things on your phone or your computer to get ready for this deposition? She said, I looked at case documents like the complaint itself. I looked at that. He said, all right. And what about any of your own personal information that was getting produced? Like in response to the request for documents and the questions? She said, yeah, I did look at those documents. He said, did you go back through and just try to remember what was going on? She said, yeah. He said, all right. And did you see in there that misinformation, that was the name you used, right? She said, I cannot confirm that. He said, okay, because you didn't see, have you in the past month seen anything posted by you to that site or handle? She said, no. Can you recall putting up anything at the misinformation TikTok? She said, yeah. Okay, have you gone back and looked to see whether there's anything on misinformation TikTok? She said, oh, no. No. I haven't posted on the misinformation TikTok. I haven't gone back to look. Okay, and can you remember today whether you've ever posted anything to that TikTok? She said, yes, I have posted to that account on TikTok. Yes, I have. He said, okay, and you said something happened to one of your other social media accounts was deleted, and so one of your audience members said, I have this, you can use it? She said, right. And do you do you formally transfer it, officially? She said, yes, I did. I met with this person because I know them. I met with them at their apartment and we went over it with our phones. You have to change the information name, the email, the phone number. And so we did that together. He said, okay. And this person was in Houston as well. She said, yeah. And what was his name? Mike Ray. Okay. And this person, did you know Mike before he reached out before he reached out and said, you can have my TikTok? She said, yeah, we had a point of reference. He said, what does that mean? A point of reference? She said, I wouldn't call him a friend. He was a fan of my show and I enlisted him to try and intern for me to post on my blog, but it didn't work out. It did or it didn't? She said, it did not. Okay. And other than being a potential intern on your blog, what did Mr. Ray do for a living? Milagro said, I do not know. I'm not sure. Okay. Did he become an intern for you? Milagro said, yes. All right. And when was that? She said, I don't know, maybe 2022. Okay. And so prior to him reaching out to you in some way on the social media, did you know him at all, Mr. Ray? She said, no. All right. So when somebody came to you through social media, this person said, "I'm your fan." She said, "Right. That's my mob radio." Yeah. Okay, and you had a dialogue, and at some point you suggested, "Why don't you come and intern with me?" Milagro said he was a fan of mine. And he came to a meet and greet of mine, and I met him in person. Okay, and the lawyer said, "Is that sometime in 2022?" She said, "No, it was before that. I don't remember exactly when I met him at the meet and greet." Okay, but where was the meet and greet? She said it was in Houston. Okay, where in Houston? Where did this happen? Like at a restaurant, a hotel? She said I had booked a location. I booked an Airbnb. And is it like a party, or she said, "No, it's a meet and greet for fans." Okay, and and ours is gonna be at Fixin's. That's gonna be one of our meet and greets we're gonna do, everybody. All the cousins. Only cousins allowed. Only cousins allowed. "And do you recall how many people were there?" She said, "I don't." "Was it more than 1,000?" She said, "No, it was less than 20 people." "More than 1,000, please. It's not TanaCon." "Okay, less than 20. Okay, all right, okay. So, you met Mr. Ray at this thing, and when you met him, did the issue of a possible internship come up right then?" She said, "Oh, no, not at all." "Okay, so when you met him, did you have any sense of what he did or what his interest was besides being a fan of your show?" She said, "No." Next question, "Is there any particular reason you thought of him as a candidate to be an intern?" She said, "No, he asked me, and he had been around." Okay. For a while as a fan, engaging in the comment section, and I felt like maybe I'll give him a chance. Okay, but did you have any understanding of did he have any particular knowledge or skills? Was he an expert in something? Or like, what did you think he was going to bring to the table? She said, "So what I did was I went and printed out different papers that listed my expectations and how I wanted things to look on my platform. And I went and sat down with him. I met him for lunch at a steakhouse, and I presented him with these things. And I said, 'Well, we'll see if you can perform in a way that is satisfactory to me.' And it did not happen that way. And so that's why, fairly quickly, I said, 'This isn't going to work.' And I went back to doing it myself. It was a very short amount of time." That's another Virgo thing to do. I'm sorry. I got to see her placements. Somebody said, "What would you say? The whole soup to nuts. How long was he around? Less than a month?" She said, "No more than a month, I would say." Okay. And is it fair to say that he was going to help you with like production value, or it was going to be more than that? She said, "No, uh, to post to Instagram on my Instagram blog." Oh, all right. So the expectations were he was going to kind of keep track of everything you are doing and make sure it got posted to Instagram. She said, "No, I just needed him to post trending topics and news stories. Trending topics and news stories on Instagram. That was it." "Okay, and that would be under your Instagram account." She said, "Yes, my blog page, not my personal." "Okay, your blog page, right. And did he have his own Instagram account or blog page?" She said, "Yes." And what was his handle?" She said, "I don't know what his handle was." "Do you not follow him on social media?" She said, "I do not." See, even that little gotcha. "What, you don't follow him on social?" She's like, "No." "Did you back then?" "Yes." "Okay, but at some point you unfollowed him when it didn't work out?" She said, "No, I unfollowed him based on a disagreement. He was a very active member of the comment section as a fan, and he was just very active, and I didn't see him for a while. I had his personal phone number, so I called to check on him, and he did not answer. This went on for weeks. Eventually, I called his job. I said, 'Hey, I was trying to book an appointment.' He was at She said, 'I tried to book an appointment. He was at the Paul Mitchell doing hair.' So I said, 'Can I book an appointment with Mike?' And the woman said, 'Sure.' And so that's whenever I knew that he was alive and okay. So I just said, 'Okay.' And I just hung up the phone. So that's my issue. So that was my issue with him, that I was trying to check on him and he wasn't answering. And so When we got back in contact, he said that he was going through something and he apologized. Okay, next question. So at that time, what was the disagreement? She said, well, that he had been a very active person and he was still someone who was adding to the space and coming and giving information. And when he disappeared, I was worried because this is someone that I have a positive exchange with at this point, and I've had a positive exchange with him at this point. It's been years at this point. We've known him, or I've known him, she said. She said, so I've been to his home, like I told you. We went out to lunch. So when he didn't answer, I was worried. So I was upset because I felt like he could have just let me know he was okay. The lawyer said, all right, so the disagreement was that he stopped being so active on social media and the ones that you were in together. And again, I think that he knows exactly what the disagreement is, and it ain't that. I think he's being obtuse, but I don't know. I wasn't there. Who knows? I'm not inside his brain. She says, no, my disagreement was that he was seemingly missing to me. I was concerned for his safety. He was so active that when he wasn't, I thought something happened to him. The lawyer goes on to his next question and says, are there other fans who you had that level of concern for, where you would go like call their job and see if they're around? She said, no, not call their job, but I have had a fan that I took groceries to because he was fired from his job for stealing food. I literally personally purchased groceries and took them to his home because he had come to a meet and greet of mine, and I thought he was nice and he was active in my community as well. So yes, I've looked out for fans. Yes. Okay. And the lawyer says, how did it, I don't know if I'm confusing this. So Michael Ray, he is the one who was going to do some things, post on the Instagram. And it was less than a month before you figured out it wasn't going to work out, right? She said, right. And then next question, how does that tie into all this other stuff about looking for him and checking if he was okay? She said, well, you asked me about following him on Instagram, and I explained to you why I unfollowed him. It had nothing to do with him working for me. It was more so like as a person who felt like he may have been in trouble. He was very active. So once I saw that he was okay, once I saw he wasn't active, I got concerned. And the lawyer, slow AF, says, okay, and what's the time? In other words, did he intern? Did he intern for you first? And then he kind of disappeared? Or she said, yeah, the internship happened first. Then this incident that I'm telling you about is years later. Oh, the lawyer says, okay. So he was an intern and he left on not great terms, right? She said, no, no. We were still fine. Oh, you were fine. He just wasn't good at what you needed him to do. She said, yeah, right. So you said this isn't going to work, right? But let's stay friends. She said, yeah. So we were on good terms. And he also continued on the social media. He was very active. And she said, so when you asked me, why did I unfollow him? It was because I was worried about him and he ghosted. And I'm worried. And he ghosted. The lawyer said, okay, so are you still in touch with him? She said, no. Okay, is there a reason you stopped being in touch with him? My God. The man needs a hearing test or a frontal lobe scan. Maybe it's a hearing test. Maybe it's a hearing issue. Is there a reason you stopped being in touch with him? She said, the reason I just gave. I just feel like it was very inconsiderate to not at least say, quote, I'm okay. I made it very clear that I was just concerned about his well-being. And I just felt like, I don't want to be in this situation again. So let's just keep it how things are. No contact. The lawyer said, and what did he say? Well, he wrote me multiple times. He texted me begging to speak to me. He asked for forgiveness. He said he was sorry. Okay, and is there anything romantic in that relationship? She said, absolutely not. He's homosexual. He's gay. He said, and he starts stuttering. He wasn't expecting that. She said, absolutely not. He is homosexual. And the thing that took it apart was that he didn't check in with you and you were offended by that. She said, I I wouldn't call us friends. And speaking of checking in with the main boss in charge, that is going to come back around in about 1 hour on BJ Investigates whenever we discover why I took a drug test, a hair follicle test, and what the results were. Checking in is going to come back up. I wouldn't call us friends, but I thought that we had enough history that if I was calling to see if he was okay, that he would at least be considerate enough to say I'm okay. An extended period of time went by, Milagro says, where she didn't know what may have happened. She didn't know anything. She said, I was just concerned. The lawyer said, okay. But after all that, he wrote you. He apologized profusely and said, I'm sorry. She said, yeah. And I said, that's okay. But I just don't wish to build further. We're done, right? She said, right. Okay, so other social media that you are on that we haven't talked about. I think we've gone over all of them. She said, I think we've gone over all of them. And then, dum dum dum, Discord enters the chat. Yeah, she was just, yeah. I mean, like, look, listen, I don't blame her. It's like, if somebody's just ghosting you, and I've been that person before, to be clear. I've been in a not a good, happiness state and been kind of in the paralyzed position, and people are texting me and wanting to check in and wanting to catch up and wanting to this, that, and it's just I don't have the energy. So, I mean, I'm not even necessarily judging whoever Mike is for this. I've been that friend too. But like, you also can't be mad whenever somebody's like, all right, you like literally ghosted and you had me stressed out for weeks on end for literally no reason. You really could have texted me. You can't be mad when people are like not trying to deal with you anymore either. You know what I mean? But Discord, I am fully convinced is like an op run by a foreign nation, and they're just collecting data on everyone and setting everyone up. I mean, it's all schizophrenia until it's proven. You know what I mean? But I don't go on there. I don't use Discord. I don't have a Discord. If anybody ever message you to come talk to me on Telegram, come talk to me on Discord with my picture, that's not me. That's a bot. That's a impersonator. Report that account. Discord, does that count as social media? The lawyer said. She said, I don't know how Discord is. He said, well, what is it? She said, I would describe it as a community server. He said, a server like a computer server, or she said, honestly, I don't know. They just use the term server. Okay. How long have you been using that Discord? She said like 2018, 2019. It's been a while. All right. And what do you do with Discord? Obviously, it's a broad period of time, but like starting in 2019, how have you used that as part of your social media? So this starting in 2019 must be the period of time they're suing for or over. She said, Discord is a space for my community to be able to speak when I'm not live. I use it in the hopes of a bonding tool. So there's chats, excuse me. So there's chats for gardening, working out, prayer. Sometimes we watch things together. Oh God. And this is a good example of why in a deposition or why when you're on the stand, you just want to keep it short. And I think Milagro did a great job. I think she did a great job. This is constant and continuous. She has not even had a break yet. This is constant and continuous. So I think she did do a great job. Easy for me to sit over here and play Monday morning quarterback, not being the one in the deposition for sure. But just as a general rule, you want to keep it short. You want to keep it tight. You want to keep it to the directly as to the answer as possible, because you've probably heard this before, the lawyers will chase that rabbit down the trail all the way to the end, just like he just did with that intern. So here's another example. And this isn't just like something bad. This isn't something that only this lawyer does. This is ATAC. This is what is to be expected. Whenever you say something that is a little off the trail, they will chase that rabbit all the way into the rabbit hole, all the way into it. Okay. They will not stop. They will have you come back tomorrow so they can finish the question. She said, yeah, there's chats on the Discord for gardening, working out, prayer. She said, sometimes, see, she could have stopped. She could have stopped right there. But she don't. And that's because she wants to be, forthcoming. And she seems like to be like a transparent type of person. That is a good feature and a good characteristic, a good quality to have. But in a deposition, you want to keep it short. You want to keep it short. She goes on, she says, sometimes we watch things together because you can stream music videos. And when I said watch things together, things that would get you a copyright strike on YouTube or Twitch. So she's like, and when I say watch things together, these are things that would get you a copyright strike on YouTube or Twitch. So music videos and things of that nature that would get a copyright strike. I can't stream a music video and give my opinion on YouTube. So I would say, let's go to Discord and we'll watch the music videos so we can all see and hear it. And then you have to go back to the other platform and talk about how you want it. I don't know what that means. He said, wait, you said there's channels for gardening and these things within your community there, or it's more general. She said, no, a Discord server begins blank. It's a blank canvas. But y'all remember that. Don't forget this right here. Okay. Sometimes we watch things together. When I said watch things together, things that would get you a copyright strike on YouTube or Twitch. So music videos and things of that nature that would get a copyright strike. I can't stream a music video and give my opinion there. So I would say, let's go to the Discord. We'll watch the music video there so we can all see it and hear it. And then you have to go back to the other platform and talk about what you thought of it or whatever. He said, but you said there's channels for gardening and these things within your community, or is it more general? She said, the Discord server begins blank. It's a blank canvas. So you create everything about it. So I personally created those rooms. The lawyer said, okay, so if we were to compare it to a physical space, like in your Discord world, there's a room that's gardening and there's a room that she's like, right, if it was this building, this would be the gardening room. Across the hall would be for the people to talk about sports. There would be another room for people to pray and give words of encouragement. There would be a room where people can talk on the phone. He said, okay, and you set up the rooms? She said, yeah. And what is this whole place called? She said, at this time it was called Mob's World. He said, and like today, how many people visit that? Or is it, how do you measure the popularity of the Discord? She said, they allow you to see how many people are part of the community. She said, I would say maybe 3,500, 3,000, maybe something, 3,000. And what was it back in 2019? He said. She said, oh, much smaller, maybe 20 people in 2019, maybe 50, something like that. Very small. He said, okay. And you said one of the utilities of Discord is if there's something copyrighted. Oh man, she's like, y'all gonna see it's a dog with a bone on this thing. And it's all coming from something she didn't have to say. Remember, I cut off on that point earlier before she ever said, and sometimes we watch things. She did not have to say that. Now, had he asked her, do sometimes you watch things? She could have said, yeah, I'm not saying she should lie, but like, you don't have to give all that extra information. And we about to be 5 pages deep of copyright. Okay. It makes me feel like bad, like I wish, it didn't happen. Cause it's like, that's not the freaking point. But like, you can tell that now he's going to try and twist it and make it seem like she's like trying to violate somebody's copyright. And it's like, oh, she done stepped in the mess, She is smart and it does show. Amanda, I agree. Why is he referencing 2019? I think that is whenever they're starting their claims of the lawsuit start in 2019. Okay, so the question here, and you said one of the utilities of Discord is if there's something copyrighted that you want to look at to talk about, if you did it on Twitter or one of these other ones, you would get a copyright strike. She said, right. And tell me, he said, again, y'all, this is normal lawyer behavior. Any lawyer would do this, but it does just like, what is your understanding of what a copyright strike is? She said a copyright strike is the person, the copyright owner, doesn't want you using their content in your video. And he said, so how does that present itself to you? Have you ever had one? She said, a copyright strike? I believe so. So tell me what you think it is. Like, what happens? You post. She said, so what happens is I would be streaming and YouTube, the YouTube system would say, hey, they would send an email. You've copyrighted material. You have copyrighted material in your video. Sometimes the YouTube email would say, because you are not monetized, there's no effect. You can keep it up. Sometimes the owner of the copyright doesn't want it used at all. So you have to go and like mute the audio and you can keep your video up. That's basically it. He said, okay. But when they send you that message, they're also disabling the underlying content, right? And that gives you a little bit of a hint, right? Because that's not necessarily true. And in fact, that's the most extreme. Most of the time, it's like the money from the video would then just go to the copyright owner. So it's like, that's stupid because I had 20 seconds or 10 or 5 or 2 of something in my video. I have to give them all the money. No, I'm just cutting it out. I'm cutting that part out. F them. It's fair use, but I don't feel like getting into the weeds about it. You know what I mean? It's very extreme. And I will tell you, the only time I've ever gotten copyright strikes where they disable the underlying content on either of my 2 channels is with people who are aggressive in ops. For example, the most recent one was the Demore Hadley interview. That was a copyright strike. Now, I will say every single copyright strike I ever got, I appealed it and it was overturned. So I actually don't really have any copyright strikes. They were all appealed and overturned. Or I appealed all of them and they were overturned. So one time, a copyright strike I got 3. I got 3 copyright strikes as soon as I started this channel we're on right now, That Surprise Witness. And it was a picture of like Lou Taylor or something, like it was in the Britney Spears verse. And it was like 3 Lou Taylor. It was a picture of Lou Taylor. And actually the picture of Lou Taylor wasn't even in one of the videos. But like basically they said, I promise under penalty of perjury, this is my use of my copyright. I didn't authorize it. This is copyright theft, whatever. So usually if you get 3 copyright strikes, your channel gets. But YouTube thankfully had set up a safety net where if you get all 3 of the copyright strikes at once, they don't terminate your channel until the resolution of those strikes. So it's not like, okay, you finally are on your 3rd one after being on YouTube for 2 years. It's like basically somebody, I think it was Lou Taylor, got a little bit overzealous trying to eliminate my channel before it could get off the ground. And it wasn't eliminated. And again, those videos were all restored. Another time I had a video completely disabled. And the reason I'm talking about this is because this lawyer is acting like it's the most obvious thing that happens. Although he acted a little bit clueless about how YouTube works in other ways, he seems to know exactly how the most aggressive copyright strikes work. She just set it up here. Sometimes nothing happens because I'm not making money. So that the underlying content is not disabled. Just nothing happens because she's not making money. She's not monetized. No effect. Moving on. Sometimes the owner doesn't want it used at all. So it's, and you just cut that part out and you keep your video up. That's basically it. He said, but they're disabling the underlying content, right? But that's not always the case. And that's why I'm talking about, in my personal experience, the times that I've had stuff disabled. The most recent, Reed Smith, something gmail.com. Who knows if that actually was Reed Smith? I don't know why they would be using a Gmail account, but it was the 40/40 Club. And they had my Demore Hadley interview pretty much incapacitated for about 2 weeks. Appealed it and it was put back up. But the way this lawyer is acting like that's the way it always is, kind of giving me a little bit of a hint, if you know. Just reading somebody else's comments. So that's my opinion. I really don't know. I don't know these people from Adam, but I'm just noticing, what I believe are patterns. But this is a public, available document. Other people have read it and you are welcome to draw your own conclusions. Nothing I'm saying is a fact. I'm not credible for sure. So don't listen to anything I say as if it's credible. Like people try to insult me and say like, take those bunny ears off. It makes you not credible. I'm like, let me get another freaking pair. Let me get another. What about now? Is it even less credible? I'm not credible. Okay. So should I keep putting more bunny ears until y'all get the point or what? And when I say y'all, I'm not even actually talking to y'all. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Or I'm talking to. Okay. So She said it depends on the copyright owner. They get to decide. Oh, all right. But whatever it is that happens there, it's better for you to send people to Discord where you can watch it without getting copyright. Objection, Your Honor. Assumes facts, not in evidence. He said, well, I'm just trying to find out exactly how it works. I mean, this is really valuable information if you're some type of lobbyist or if you work for one that's trying to figure out how to get Discord, which I'm honestly, if you're a lobbyist and you're trying to bring Discord down, I might work with you. Actually, I think that thing is a cancer on society. I think they're using it for grooming. I think they're using it for all kind of abuses against children. Do I mean Discord itself? No. But I do think it happens on there. Have y'all seen that Turkey Tom gooning video? If you've never seen Turkey Tom gooning video, it's if you got a kid in your house under your roof, you have to go watch the Turkey Tom gooning video. After my drug test video tonight. Millie is a Scorpio sun. Thank you, Ashley's World. Thank you. Exactly. It's a direct communication with the mothership. Okay. He's like, so I think you told me, and this highlighting right here, I got the transcript like this. So I don't know who's highlighting that is. So I think you told me that one use of Discord is it's a place we can look at content that might create a copyright strike over here. Is that correct? She said, yeah. Okay, and what's an example of something you would look at on Discord to avoid this copyright strike issue? She said, okay, so Beyonce, and I'm like, God, why are you saying that? So Beyonce can sue for copyright now? Beyonce came up with a music video today and it was a topic on my show on YouTube. So I got to talk about it, but we want to hear the song and we want to watch the video. Beyonce more than likely is going to flag that and make you trim out the whole segment of your video. That's probably true. So now the integrity of your video is affected. You don't want that. So later on, as we're bonding, we're chilling, I'm like, hey, you guys want to watch that Beyonce video? They're like, sure. So we watch the video. He says, all right, so what I'm trying to understand is what's the timing? In other words, do you talk for a little while on your social medias that may have this copyright issue and then say, hey, go to Discord, look at this over there, and then you come back to talk? She said, no. Discord is just a community space that runs on its own. It's based on the members. That happens sporadically. Come in, come out. It's literally like people's leisure when they want to come in and out. So it's not like scheduled. It's not like, hey, I talked about this today. Now I'm going to Discord to do this. No. He said, right, but what you're trying to do for the fans saying you can come talk to me about this late breaking video? We're going to talk about it. If you need to see it to understand, go over there. She said, no. He said, okay, tell me in your words, what's the point of having the music video on Discord and the conversation on one of these other social medias? She said, okay, so I'm a music lover. Stationhead is a radio hosting platform. All the streams count toward Billboard. So music is a big part of Mob Radio because Mob Radio is a radio channel on Stationhead. It's a big part of what I do, she said. So I actually have plugins. People can play music on here. It's not like I talked about this, so let's go there. Simply because I cannot. I do not have that freedom on YouTube. If I am in this space and it comes up, we may watch a music video. That's what I'm saying. Or if there was a topic that people are talking about and there's an opportunity at that point, hey, y'all want to watch it? Then we'll watch it. It's not orchestrated. It's not an orchestrated thing like that. No, it's not an extension of my show in any way. He said, okay, I understand it's not orchestrated, but just the basic, we're talking about something that you think you can't put up on YouTube, right? Because it's going to get one of these strikes. She said, no. He said, okay, so explain it to me in your words. I want to understand why you use Discord as a part of this to post a music video in the case you gave me, Beyonce. She said, no. What I'm telling you is Discord is a community space. And so it's like a hangout, so to speak. what I'm telling you, we may watch things. You can use channels for different things. So I'm telling you that when I'm present, that, okay, I may play a music video when I come in. I want to talk about something. So I may play a music video. I may listen to music. They have movies on YouTube. We may watch a YouTube movie. So it's not about I was copyrighted, so I want to go to Discord to show something. No, it's because I don't get a negative effect. It's so I don't get a negative effect on YouTube. He said, all right, I'm misunderstanding because I thought we started this whole thing with you saying some things go on Discord because on YouTube, you'll get a copyright strike, right? She said, it's possible. Yeah. Okay. And that Discord was the solution to that. You're not going to get a copyright strike on Discord, right? And then the lawyers go back and forth. And her lawyer does not want her to say, are you going to get a copyright strike on Discord? Or she doesn't really want her to talk about that because she doesn't know. She doesn't want to make it seem like Milagro is saying, she knows what exactly constitutes a copyright strike or not. And then the lawyers get into it. He rephrases the question. He says, I want to understand in the situation you told me with the Beyonce video on Discord and a conversation going on with you and your fans on another channel. Why are you doing it that way instead of just putting it all together on YouTube in one place? She said, because by the time I'm on Discord, I'm not working anymore. I'm trying to relax and I actually get to know my community and hear what they have to say. So this is not a show. She said, I routinely say Discord is not about me. That's why it's Mob's World. It's for the people. So it's just trending, what's going on. People talk about their own personal lives. So it's not because YouTube doesn't let me do something, I go on Discord. No, I'm just telling you that I don't know these people personally. So the only place they can meet me is what I talked about on my show. So show topics may come up is what I'm saying. But y'all see what I mean? Like how we've gone page after page after page after page, how if you rewind back to where I said she could have stopped there, these questions wouldn't even been asked. And Amor, thank you for this because y'all know I am not on Discord and I will not be going on Discord. Amor Fatih said, Milagro is not explaining it right in the moment, but Discord has ways to watch movies and videos legally. We connect our YouTubes, etc. Okay, got it. Yeah, all platforms have different rules. It's just that simple. He's playing dumb. Yeah, it could be that. Yep. Could be that. It's interesting to see how these lawyers all of a sudden get it whenever, the shoe's on the other foot. But he said, but we got to this whole thing because of the copyright problem. You brought it up, right? She said, I gave you an example of something. He said, all right, I'm just trying to stay with that example. She said, okay. He said, is it your understanding that there are different rules on what you can do with copyrighted material on Discord versus other social media platforms? She said, yes, there's different rules. He said, okay, and the rules are looser on Discord, would you say? She said, no, I wouldn't say looser. I think because of the benefit that artists get from YouTube, because they make money on the videos and stuff like that, that's why they're more strict on YouTube. But on Twitch, I also play music videos that YouTube may copyright. So it just depends on the platform. Every platform has rules. Somebody could report the Discord. So every platform does have rules. He said, but your understanding is the chances that you're going to get in trouble on copyright grounds on Discord are lower than YouTube, right? And he thinks he's about to get a gotcha. She said, no. He said, no. She said, no. Because you can't speak for what someone else may do. Somebody might come through and flag you. Like I told you, one of my pages was falsely flagged and falsely suspended. So no, I didn't have the confidence that it wasn't possible. Of course it can happen. He said, so you didn't treat it as just a workaround for something you knew you couldn't do. You couldn't put it up on YouTube, so you went to Discord. See how he wouldn't even had that line of questioning had she not volunteered that information. And that is not legal advice to remember for the next time you have a deposition. Not legal advice. Not. Okay. You need legal advice? Hire a lawyer. He said, you didn't treat it, meaning Discord, as just a workaround for something you knew you couldn't do. You couldn't put it up on YouTube, so it wasn't. She's like, right, no, it wasn't that at all. He said, but you said your social media was suspended. Which account was that? She said it was Twitter. I've had Twitter and Instagram suspended. He said, are they currently suspended? She said, my Twitter is currently suspended. He said, and what were the stated grounds for that? What was the reason they gave? She said, evasion, I think. Evasion? She said, yeah. That's when you make another Twitter after one has been suspended. He said, okay, that's the word they use, evasion. She said, I think so. He said, and was that true of you? Had you had a previous account suspended and you made a new one? She said, yeah, I had a previous account suspended. He said, and that previous account did have a different name than like the more recent one? She said, yeah. He said, okay, and what was the reason? Was that the first time your Twitter had ever got suspended? She said, no. He said, okay, what's the first time your Twitter got suspended? She said, I don't recall. Best you can estimate. Was it 1940? The lawyer said. Was it 1940? He said. She said, no, I wasn't alive. 2020, possibly, she said. And how long had you been on Twitter at that point? She said, since 2010. Okay, so 2020 was the first time your Twitter, gets taken down, like literally suspended? She said, that's the first time I recall. He said, okay, and what was the stated reason back then? She said, I don't recall. He said, were you bothered? She said, that my page was deleted? He said, yeah. She said, I was frustrated, yeah. And did you try to understand why that they were able to do that to you? She said, at the time, I'm sure I did. Yeah. Okay. But sitting here today, you can't recall why they suspended your account. She said, no, because I get harassed a lot. So it's always something that doesn't make sense. And that I feel that. I feel that. He said, whether it makes sense or not, you can't even remember the reason they told you your account was suspended. She said, no. For example, I have gotten an account suspended and I didn't get a follow-up email. So I had no idea why and I had nobody to contact. So there are some instances where I literally don't know. There was my latest Twitter got suspended. They claimed I was impersonating myself. I tried to reach out. I hit a brick wall. He said, so the words I'm hearing, this is such a bullshit little weasel question. He's like, so the words I'm hearing here, impersonating, and invasion, it was evasion, stupid ass. They all seem like dishonesty words. Is that what they were saying? That you were misleading people? She said, because I could explain to you what the situation is. I had my face on Instagram, on my profile picture. I was verified on Instagram. I was not verified on Twitter. So I had my personal picture in my AV on Twitter. So her avatar picture on Twitter, her biopic on Twitter, was her personal picture. And she said, from me being harassed, fans went on Twitter, Megan the Stallion fans, because they publicly said this, they went and reported my Twitter for impersonation of a verified Instagram. That should have never happened. Obviously, I totally agree. She said that should have never happened. So it should have never been suspended. It was suspended for me impersonating myself because I wasn't verified on Twitter. So they said she's not the real Milagro Grams. And they got my page deleted. So I made another one and they said, you evaded it. I'm continuously saying, you will not follow up with me. I sent my license. I sent my trademarks. I tried to talk to them for months. So the word evader and impersonation were used. But in understanding why, it's not really anything substantial or my wrongdoing. He said, are there any suspensions of your Twitter or your Insta for reasons that you do understand? Do you know why they did it? And you agree you did whatever it is, those that you got suspended for? She said, no, I do not agree. He said, well, whatever the reasons were in each case, you say they were wrong? She said, at no point in time, never once have I ever agreed. No. He said, okay, I'm going to go back in the beginning. We talked about making it easier for the court reporter. You have to let me finish my question. She said, okay. And just leave a little space for her to catch up. And then, okay, have you made any attempt to understand what the rules are, say on Twitter, in terms of what you can and can't do? She said, yeah, I've made attempts. Okay. And how did you do that? Did you figure out what's going to get you suspended or not on Twitter? She said, well, when I've gotten an email with an issue, I've looked into that particular situation. They have links you can follow. So, in a broad way, looking at all of their things, no. I don't know what all their policies and stuff like that. I just know what they come to me with. And I have looked into that. He said, okay. So give me everything you can remember about that. And if anybody ever asks me a question like this in a deposition, I'm just saying I can't remember. You have to give me a list. Everything I can remember about that. I don't understand the question. I don't want to forget anything. I'm going to need something more specific. Everything you can remember about that. Ask me a question. Amanda said, oh my God, this is insanity. Sloan Bella also got her verified account taken down by impersonators too. They don't care. Her name is trademarked. It happens. Social media is a dumpster fire. I do think there need to be protections. I mean, I was talking about this earlier. Yeah, it worked for Meg. It worked for everybody else. That's why, I mean, hey, look. What's an example of an email you got from a social media platform that said you were going to be suspended for XYZ, and you looked into it and you got to the bottom of it? What's an issue they raised for you? She said, okay, the impersonation. I received an email saying that my Twitter was suspended for impersonation. But that picture was myself, so I knew that they were accusing me of impersonating myself. They said, if you think we made a mistake, follow up with us. And they have different verification tools. They may ask you to write a number on a piece of paper and take a picture with it. They have different things. I can't recall all the different methods, but that's what I've done. I sent them an email with my license. I sent them emails with my trademarks. I explained to them, I own my likeness. This is me. I'm not impersonating myself. Can I speak to someone? And I went and I read the rules on it at the time, and I didn't qualify for suspension. And ultimately, the suspension was never lifted because I never got a response. And at some point, she just gave up. He said, okay, so when was the last time you had an active Twitter account? She said, I have an active Twitter right now. He said, okay, the suspension we've been talking about, the impersonation, that's on Instagram. She said, no, that was on Twitter. The man is dense. He's slow as molasses. Twitter got suspended for impersonation, and then I made another one. He said, and did that one get suspended? She said, very recently, yeah, it got suspended. And what were the grounds that they stated as the reason you were suspended? And she said, evading suspension from the impersonation. He said, so you got impersonation and evading. Those are two separate accounts. She said, yeah. When Twitter suspends you, apparently you are not supposed to make another Twitter account. She said, and the lawyer said, how did you know that? She said, well, once they told me that in the email. He said, all right, so you got suspended. You made a new account. They send you an email saying, we know you just made a new account. You are still suspended. She said, yeah, it was reported. And then because I had the Twitter account for a while, it was mass reported. He said, all right, so what was the handle on the old Twitter, the suspended one and the new one? She said, I don't know. There were variations of milagrograms, but I don't exactly know what they were. And what's your current one? She said it got suspended. It was the milagrograms. It was, or maybe Mob's World. I would have to go look. It was a variation of either milagrograms or Mob's World. He said, all right, how many times have you been suspended from a social media platform? She said 2 or 3. And is it all on Twitter? She said, no, one of my Instagram pages was also suspended and reinstated. And my blog page has also been suspended before. I believe one time. He said, and what was the stated reason? She said, I don't know. Did they give you a reason? She said, I don't remember. Okay. The lawyer goes on and says, you said it was just one time and there was a reason, but you can't remember, right? Right. And ultimately it was reinstated. She said, no, I had to start fresh. And that's the one I have now. That's the blog. He said, so rather than resolving whatever got you suspended, you just created a new account or a new blog. And she said, yeah. Oh, he said, okay, well, what about Instagram? How many times have you been suspended there? She said, only once on Instagram, I believe. He said, and did you undo the suspension or just create a new account? She said, I responded to their email and way later they did reinstate it. He said, so how long were you suspended on Instagram? She said, I don't know how long I was without that page, honestly. Was it more than a year? She said, I don't think it was more than a year. Several months. She said it was an extended period of time. And he says, you can't recall the stated reason. She said, no, I don't know why they did it. And they gave it back. That's the one I have now, several months later. And she said, so, and he said, okay, so I have the blog, I have Instagram, and then Twitter. You said what, 3 total suspensions? She said, I don't know how many times I've been suspended on Twitter, but I mean, I would say 2 or 3. He said, okay. And I heard impersonation, evasion, and what was the other one? She said, that was it. He said, but one of those 2 was the explanation they gave for each of your suspension on Twitter. He said, yeah. She said, yeah. He said, okay, in the case of Twitter, did you resolve any of the suspensions with them? Meaning, did they take it back? Or in each case, after suspension, you just created a new account? She said, well, I would attempt. I didn't resolve anything with them. I would try, and then I would make a new one. Okay, all right. So next question. So for whatever Twitter said about suspending your account, none of those ever got to the bottom of it? No. Okay. But you did get to be back on Twitter just by using a new name? She said, yeah. Okay. And how did your people know about that? Did you just say, I have a new Twitter? He said, yeah. She said, yes. Okay. So then the lawyer needs to take a bio break. They go take a bathroom break. Can you read back? Okay. So they're back on the record. How did your people know about that? You just said, I have a new Twitter. And she said, yes. Okay. Any other social media presence we haven't talked about? She said, I don't think so. Okay. Any other suspensions from social media that we haven't talked about? She said, no. Okay. Have you ever had any interaction with the criminal justice system other than just studying it? She said, no. He said, okay, you haven't had any criminal prosecutions, arrests, or anything like that? No. And let me quickly ask you, I think I asked this before, did you do anything to prepare for your testimony today? To get ready to come in here, like in terms of looking at things or talking to your lawyer? She said, I looked at the complaint and I looked at some of my responses to questions, like the interrogatories. Did you meet with Rhonda? She said, yes. And when was that? Yesterday? She said, yeah. And how long did you guys spend together? A few hours, 3 hours maybe? She's like, I couldn't really say. In the afternoon at a restaurant. Okay. And did you guys have any documents that you looked at in the meeting? No. Okay. And other than Rhonda meeting at the restaurant yesterday, did you talk to anybody else about your testimony today? Like the fact that you were going to take a deposition? She said, yeah, my attorney, Jeremy. Uh-huh. He said, and then did you meet with him to go over whatever might come up today? She said, can you please be more specific? He goes, sure. How long has Jeremy been your attorney? She said, since May, I believe. So just a few months, couple months. Okay. And have you spoken to him about the fact that you were going to have your deposition taken? Yes, she said. And the lawyer said, okay. And did you guys make time to prepare together for the deposition? No. Okay. Next question. So he left that to Rhonda, I assume, right? She said, I want to make sure I'm being clear. I was with Rhonda here physically. So I didn't speak to Jeremy then. Separately, Jeremy has spoken to me about what a deposition is. And that was prior to today. Okay. And next question. When you were talking to Jeremy about what a deposition is or what might come up, were you guys looking at documents together? Okay. And then the lawyer's like, that's privileged. Objection. We're gonna not let her answer that question. It's a yes or no question. The lawyer said, okay, well, can I answer? Can I, unintelligible, that doesn't get, I cannot hear what you're saying. Oh boy, the lawyer said they're fighting. The court reporter can't get in. They're all yelling. They're all arguing. Oh, or maybe the connection, something wrong. Because some of these people are on Zoom. I forgot. The guy asking questions is like, okay, this is the Megan the Stallion, Megan Pete's lawyer. I'll just tell you the connection's a little jumbled. I think what you were saying is I don't want her to talk about privileged information, and that is I'm trying to ask it so I don't get to that yet. I just want to know whether there were communications. Is that Jeremy speaking? Yes. Okay. Yes, it is. Okay. So I'll ask it as a yes or no question. When you spoke with Jeremy about the deposition, was it in person or some other way? She said via computer on Zoom, I think. Okay. And during that, was there one session or more than one session? She said, I believe we did have more than one session on Zoom. Okay. And next question. And taking them all together, did you guys, during any part of that, look at documents from these underlying events? Milagro said, no, we did not. Me and Jeremy did not look at documents on Zoom. No. You didn't look at any emails, any texts, any web pages, nothing like that? No. She said, no. Okay. Next question. Other than your lawyers, have you talked to anybody else about, the fact that you're being deposed in this case? She said, yes. He goes, okay, just give me a list. Have you talked to Sunstar Peterson about your deposition in this case? That's Tory Lanez's dad. No. He goes, who have you spoken to? She said, I spoke to Caesar McDowell. Okay, who else? That's all who I can recall at this time is Caesar. The question was just the fact that you are going to be giving a deposition in this case. I was trying to figure out who you said, hey, this is going to happen. Who's in that circle? Is Caesar in that circle? She said, specific to this deposition? He said, yes, my question was specific to, not this moment in time, but the fact in general that you're being deposed regardless of when it was going to happen. She said, yes, I have spoken to Caesar. Anybody else you've talked to about your deposition in this case besides Caesar? She said, I don't recall. Your husband? She said, no. Does he know why you had to leave Houston? She said, right, yes. So let me say yes. In that way, yes. So I don't know what's this deal with this like husband line of questioning. The husband doesn't know she's getting deposed. He's a veteran? I don't know what's going on with that. The lawyer said, okay, let me broaden it to this case in general. Okay, the case Megan Pete against you. Who are the people in sort of your life, not your fans, people who you directly deal with, who you have spoken to about this case? Caesar and Unite the People is what she said. Okay. And Caesar is from Unite the People? Milagro said, yes. Per my knowledge, he is over it, meaning like he heads it. Over it, like he's the head of it. She said, I'm not going to Unite the People anymore. All right. So how did you first meet Caesar McDowell? She said, I first met him at the Tory Lanez trial, at the trial of Daystar Peterson, who also goes by Tory Lanez. And then in the question, okay, so he says, well, what were the circumstances? So it was in connection with the trial. Were you introduced to him by somebody? Milagro said, no, it was in passing, like, hi. Okay. And when you met him, did you have an understanding of what his role was at Unite the People, like, or at the trial? Why was he there? She said, no. And what did he tell you he was doing there? She said, we didn't discuss that. Okay, next question. Tell me what you remember about the first conversation you had with Caesar. She said, it was a simple, hi, my name is Milagro. Hi, I'm Caesar. It was just an introduction. Okay, and when was the next time you talked to him? She said, I talked to him in passing in the hall during the trial. All right, so you saw each other around at the trial. When was the first time that you had like a real conversation? She said, a significant conversation with him? He said, yeah. She said, in 2023. Okay, and tell me everything you can remember about that conversation. She said, well, we spoke briefly about Caesar coming on an Instagram Live to explain some case updates. Okay, the lawyer says, and Instagram Live, tell me, how does that work? That's like, what is it? She said, it's Instagram Live is something you go on Instagram and you can stream, essentially, pretty much. You set up your camera and another person can call in and you can accept the invite and it would put two people on your screen. The lawyer says, okay, so it would almost look like a talk show or something, like it's two people going back and forth. She said, somewhat, I guess, yeah. And more like, I would say it looks more like a FaceTime. And is that something you do for the benefit of other people watching, or is it just like a phone call? She said, no, it's for the public. Okay, and so you in 2023, after you saw each other at the trial, you had a conversation about he wanted you to come on his or he would come on yours. She said, no, he would come on my platform. Okay, and did you actually do that with him? Yes, Milagro said. All right, and that was at after the trial, during the trial? She said that was after the trial. After the trial, he came on her Instagram for Instagram Live. Was it after the verdict? She said, yeah, also the verdict had already been entered. Okay, so you already knew there was a conviction, and then Caesar came on your Instagram Live to talk about it. Milagro said, yeah. Okay, and other than the fact that Caesar was attached to Unite the People, did you have an understanding of what his interest in the case was, like what his background was? Milagro said, no. Next question, what was he there? Well, you had the live feed on Instagram, right? With him? Yes. And how long did that last? She said maybe an hour. I wouldn't say longer than an hour. I wouldn't say more than an hour. And what did you talk about? She said, I don't recall past telling you it was a case update. I don't know what the case update was at that time. There's been a lot of case updates, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, did you do more than one of those Instagram Live case updates with him? She said, yes. How many altogether, if you had to add them up? She said, no more than 10. Okay, and was the one after the verdict the very first one? She said, I think so. So the very first one ever that she did with Caesar, these live streams on Instagram, was after the verdict, after it had already been, found guilty or whatever. I'm just looking at y'all's comments. And then when is the most recent one? Over 6 months ago. It's been a while since I did it. And why did you stop doing them? She said, I wouldn't say there was really never a conversation about stopping or da-da-da. It just hasn't happened, I would say. Okay, so in your mind, the lawyer says, why do you stop doing them? Like, was there no more material? She said, in my mind, it wasn't something that progressed in a way that I needed to be reporting on certain things. The lawyer said, so you didn't think it was going to produce more helpful content for your presence? So he does like throw in these like bitchy little snarky little, like he gets like a demon takes a hold of him and he just asks these like bitchy questions out of nowhere. She said, I didn't feel as though there had really been a significant update for me to report on. Oh, okay. So you're saying there wasn't really any update in the case, anything to talk about? She said, right. And that was the only thing that you had to talk about with Caesar was the case update. He wasn't a guest on any other subjects. Milagro said, no. I mean, he was just talked about the appeals process and what was going on currently. Okay, next question. Is Caesar a lawyer? She said, not to my knowledge. Okay, next question. After all those case updates, did you come to have an understanding of what he brought to the table? Like, why was he commenting on this case at all? She said, I can't speak to his reasons why. Calls for speculation, objection. Okay, so the lawyer, the Megan the Stallion's lawyer, the one doing the questioning, is like, well, I only want what you know. Did anybody tell you, including Caesar, why he had a personal interest in this case? He said, Milagro said no. And the lawyer said, so sitting here today, you have no idea why he was interested in this case as opposed to any other case. Milagro said no. And did he have some type of connection to Tory Lanez? Milagro said, not that I know of. And when is the most recent time you were in touch with Caesar? 6 months ago? She said, oh no, it was more recent than that. I would say maybe April or May, a few months ago. And the lawyer goes, okay. And was that about doing another case update or was it about something else? She said, all of my interactions with him at that point were about my case. My case. So she ain't even talking about the Tory Lanez case with this Caesar guy. She's talking about her case. Okay. And what was his role in your case? She said, he is no longer a person affiliated with my case. Uh-oh, the drama. The lawyer said, I didn't hear the end. He's no longer what? She said, affiliated with my case. The lawyer said, okay. Before he was no longer affiliated, meaning he was affiliated, what was his role? How was he helping you or working with you on your case? Milagro said, Caesar propositioned me to represent me pro bono, for Unite the People to represent me pro bono. So my understanding was that Unite the People was representing me as my pro bono lawyers. And he would handle anything that had to do with lawyers and listing lawyers. Anything about my case, he was going to be the point of contact. I was to speak to him and pay him. Oh man, they need to investigate Caesar if this is true. And pay him, you said? She said eventually, yeah, it turned into that. Yes. Did she get schemed? That's what I want to know. And when did that idea first get discussed between you and Caesar? You're doing the case updates. It's about Tori's case. And then at some point you get sued by Megan. You see how he uses this kind of like passive voice, kind of like squirrely voice. And then at some point you're in this case with Megan. Like at some point you're in this case. Yeah, no, some point your bitch ass sued. like you're the reason, Mr. Lawyer. Y'all are the reason this case exists. So you should have just said, and at some point Megan sued you. Anyway, and that conversation where he propositioned you about being pro bono, put that in the calendar. Was it 2024? 2025? She said, I was served in October 2024. And within days, Caesar reached out to me to ask to represent me. This kind of like is feeling like the top of my head is tingling and Sean Chapman Holly vibes are coming into my schizophrenic psychic vision conspiracy theory. If you know what I mean. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the schizophrenic psychic vision, like that kind of twinges this Caesar guy is the same as Sean Chapman Holly. Like they got all the information they needed, the lawyer client, all of that, got the feelings, I don't know. I'm just asking if anybody else has the same schizophrenic psychic vision, conspiracy theory, or okay, Sanvi said yes. I'm just wondering. I don't know. I wasn't there. She said, within days after I got sued, he reached out to me to ask to represent me. Okay. And the next question, you told me you don't know whether he's a lawyer, right? She said, right. And did you have an understanding when he was reaching out to you one way or another, whether he was the lawyer he was going to provide to you? She said, I honestly didn't have a real understanding at all of the inner workings, to be honest. He said, I mean, did he say he was going to go to court for you or appear in your case? Or did he say, I'll find someone? Or did he say something else? Milagro said, Caesar just told me that Unite the People wanted to represent me pro bono and that things would be handled. And did you agree to do that? Yes. And did you have an understanding of what your side of the bargain was? Yes. And tell me what that was. She said, well, it was to be cooperative with the lawsuit in general. My role was to, when asked to produce something or we needed a meeting, I was to be present and to do my part. Okay, so just cooperating in your own defense. She said, right. All right, which you would have done that anyway, right? She said, of course. And then you said something about paying him back eventually. What was that about? What was that talked about in the beginning? She said, no. So when did that come up? She said, when Caesar stole her money. He said, tell me about that. She said, well, the contract was for a pro bono representation. Caesar came to me and said, I need money for your lawyer. And if you don't figure something out, you're not going to have a lawyer because I can't do it. Okay, so you said your contract called for pro bono? She said, yeah. But you still have that contract? She said, I don't know. I have to look. We would ask you to produce that. She said, well, I might object because that might be privileged. That's her attorney. I understand. It's just like, my take under advisement. I'd ask you to produce that if you decide it's not privileged. Okay. Is that a contract? Is that contract for anything other than to represent you? No. I guess they're trying to say maybe they're trying to see if she maybe agreed to say certain things for the contract or something. He wants the contract. I don't know what he's trying to really get at or see. Thanks so much, Kel on Earth, for the $2 super sticker. I do want to remind y'all in 5 minutes, we are going to Yeah, she said that. I didn't say it. All right, I was just reading it. This is when it gets super wild. Giovanni said, it's in 5 minutes. We have to go to BJ Investigates, my other channel, because we got to do the premiere for my drug test video. I did a hair follicle test. Okay, so that's premiering in 5 minutes, but I'm going to keep going, until a few more minutes. But Giovanni said this is where it gets really super wild, super wild. This is where it's getting super wild. And you signed that contract? Yeah. She said, yes. And who signed it for the other party? She said, I think Caesar. Okay, next question. And that's a contract between Milagro and Unite the People. She said, to my knowledge, yeah. Okay, and when is the last time you looked at that contract? She said, when it was presented to me, November of last year. Okay, and did you talk to your lawyer about signing that? No. Did you talk to anybody about whether you should sign that besides Caesar? She said, well, I think I spoke about it publicly on my show. He said about the fact that this proposal had been made and you were going to go with it. She said, yeah. And did you do any investigation of who these Unite the people were? She said, no. Okay. I mean, you're entrusting your legal defense to them, right? She said, right. And that's a pretty big step. You didn't make any investigation as to why they were involved, what their motives were. She said, no. Did they tell you what their motives were? Milagro said, well, Caesar said that he created Unite the People to help people like me that he believed were being bullied and taken advantage of. Okay, but did he give you examples of people other than you that he had helped? Like, were they doing this for the first time with you, or this is something they've been doing for years? She said, it was my understanding that the foundation was built on helping people in that way. Okay, yeah, but were you aware of any examples where they had done that in another case before? She said, not in a case like mine, but yeah, I was aware of examples where they had helped people. Yeah. Okay. So in other words, something made you think this was a good idea. Did they tell you we've been successful for some other people in this kind of circumstance? She said, no. Did you think they had expertise in dealing with this situation? She said, well, once I spoke to them, I did. And what did they tell you that made you think they had expertise in this? She said, once I spoke to the lawyers and they explained the lawsuit. Okay, I don't want you to tell me your conversation with the lawyer. I'm going to be careful because your lawyer asked me that, and that's fair. So I'm going to ask you some questions about the conversations. If you're having a lawyer-client conversation and there's not other people, including like maybe Caesar or whatever, that would be privileged or could be privileged. So it sounds like they put you in touch with an actual lawyer, right? At some point, she said, yes. Who was that lawyer? It was Walter. Okay. She said, I don't know his last name. And at the time, and there was another man named Michael Hayden, Hayden. Okay, so did Walter and Michael eventually become your lawyers? She said, Michael Hayden became my lawyer. He said, okay, and without telling me what was discussed, you were put in touch with Michael Hayden, this lawyer. And at the end of the day, at the end of that, you said, yes, I'm going to work with these people. Milagro said, yes. And the next question is, in the time you did that, you understood based on your contract, it was going to be pro bono, right? Yes. And sometime later, you told me Caesar stole your money? She said, yes. So walk me from when you started with Michael to when Caesar stole your money. She said, well, like I said, it was supposed to be pro bono. Caesar told me because of Unite the People's role that I needed to pay him directly. So I started a campaign on Give, Send, Go. And I withdrew the money and I sent it to Caesar via Zelle in increments. I sent maybe about $9,000. Then there was Michael Pancier, who was my Florida attorney. He reached out to me. Okay. So at some point, Caesar, who's not a lawyer, reaches out and says, whatever it was before now you have to pay. I need money for lawyers now. Did you have a conversation about the fact that that wasn't the deal? She said, oh, absolutely. And tell me about that conversation. Was that conversation on the phone or in person? She said it was on the phone. And what did you say? What did he say? She said, I told him I felt really abandoned and I was upset because it was supposed to be pro bono. I told him I would try as much as I could, but that was pretty much it. He basically told me it takes money. You need to find some money. Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it off on that one tonight. Everybody, stay where you are. You will be automatically redirected to the BJ Investigates drug test results, and I'll see y'all in the live chat. In the meantime, we're going to come back. We're going to come back probably, I mean, maybe even tomorrow. We'll read some more Milagro Deposition. I really think she's doing a great job. We have run up against the clock, so I can't give too much analysis now, but we will reconvene at probably tomorrow at a later time. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation, neither are opinions. See y'all in the next chat. Thank you so much, Molly, for the $5 right at the buzzer. I was on the live. She was doing that. All started it. And she says, it sounds like a setup, but go to my likes. Wow. And continue the show. Thank you for that. Super chat, the $5. And also thank you for that context. See y'all in the live stream next. Love you, mean it. Okay, bye.